There are moments in life when love does not just touch the heart but reaches into the soul, leaving a mark so deep that a man can never return to who he was before. Have you ever wondered why some women are impossible for a man to forget? Why even time and distance cannot erase their presence? It is because something in her essence awakens him in ways beyond logic, beyond desire, beyond reason. And once his soul has been touched in this way, he is bound to her forever. The soul's recognition is one of the most mysterious and powerful forces behind love, and it explains why some connections feel deeper than anything the mind can logically justify. When a man encounters a woman who awakens this sense within him, it is not simply about her beauty, charm, or even her intelligence, though those may draw his initial attention. What grips him at the level of his soul is the unexplainable feeling of familiarity. As if he has known her far longer than the time they have shared. This recognition does not come from the surface, but from the depths of his inner being. And it is why he feels that she is different from anyone else he has ever met. It creates a sense that fate rather than chance has orchestrated the meeting, and this becomes the seed of a bond he cannot easily sever. The power of this recognition lies in how it bypasses reason. A man may try to explain to himself why he feels so strongly, but logic alone cannot capture it. He might notice that he feels unusually calm in her presence, as if he has arrived home after years of wandering. Or he might feel an electrifying energy that makes him alive in ways he never experienced before. These sensations are not inventions of the mind but reflections of something deeper. The meeting of energies that resonate on a profound level. The sense of recognition is not merely liking someone. It is a reminder of what his soul has always sought and rarely found. This recognition often reveals itself in subtle ways. A look, a smile, or even the quietness shared between them can speak volumes. There may be moments when words are unnecessary because the connection itself carries meaning. He might notice that he understands her emotions without explanation, or that she seems to understand his unspoken thoughts. Such experiences give him the feeling that their souls speak a language beyond words. It is in these small, seemingly ordinary moments that the extraordinary bond reveals itself. They are not built on effort or performance, but on the natural alignment of who they are at their core. The soul's recognition also awakens a sense of destiny. A man may feel that meeting her was inevitable, that even if circumstances had been different, life would have found a way to cross their paths. This belief strengthens his attachment because he sees her not as a passing encounter, but as someone woven into the larger story of his existence. It is a bond that feels timeless, one that stretches beyond the boundaries of the present moment. When he experiences this, he no longer views love as something he chooses at will, but as something that chooses him through her. There is also a transformative quality to this recognition. A man who feels his soul has found its mirror in a woman often discovers aspects of himself he did not know existed. She awakens his capacity for tenderness, patience, and devotion in ways he could never force. He finds himself willing to grow to face his fears, and to strive toward becoming a better version of himself, not because she demands it but because her presence inspires it. Her essence calls forth what is hidden within him, and this revelation becomes addictive to his spirit. What makes this recognition so powerful is that it cannot be forgotten. Even if time and distance intervene, the memory of such a connection lingers in his heart. It becomes a touchstone, a reminder of what it feels like to be truly seen and known at the deepest level. For a man, this recognition is not about possession, but about belonging, not about control, but about connection. It is rare, it is sacred, and once experienced it becomes the reason he cannot stop loving her, no matter what paths life may lead him down. The depth of vulnerability is one of the most profound elements that strikes a man's soul, and makes him fall in love in a way that goes beyond the surface. When a woman allows herself to be seen in her raw, unguarded moments, she opens a window into her essence that no facade could ever reveal. It is not weakness that touches him, but the courage it takes to drop the mask, to show the sides of herself that are tender, imperfect, and real. Men live much of their lives in a world that expects them to be strong, to hide their own fears, and to suppress their softness. When he witnesses vulnerability in a woman, it resonates deeply because it gives him permission to with his own humanity. A side he rarely shares with anyone else. This shared space of openness creates intimacy that feels unshakable. Vulnerability is powerful because it breaks down barriers. It does not come from trying to impress or pretending to be flawless, but from allowing imperfections to be visible. When a woman cries in front of him without shame, when she admits her doubts and insecurities, or when she shares her secret dreams with trembling honesty, it awakens something in him that cannot be reached through perfection. In those moments, he feels not just like a partner, but like a confidant, someone trusted with the deepest truths of her being. That trust binds him because he understands it is not given to everyone. It is a sacred offering, and once he receives it, he treasures it. This depth also speaks to his protective instincts, but not in a superficial way. It is not about guarding her like a possession, but about cherishing the gift of her openness. A man who sees vulnerability in a woman often feels a desire to honor it, to provide a safe space where she never has to hide. He may not even consciously realize it, but her willingness to reveal herself calls him to rise in strength. Not the kind of strength that dominates, but the kind that supports. This creates a balance where he feels needed, yet not in a way that diminishes her. Instead, her vulnerability amplifies her power, because it makes her real. And reality is far more magnetic than any illusion. There's also a beauty in vulnerability that cannot be faked. A laugh that comes through tears, a confession whispered in fear, or a silent gaze that admits longing. These are moments that reach directly into his soul. They are not rehearsed or polished, but raw and authentic. And it is exactly that imperfection that makes unforgettable. He may not recall every conversation they have, but he will never forget the moment she let him see her true self without armor. Those memories live in his heart like imprints, shaping the way he loves her and ensuring that the bond they share feels unbreakable. On a deeper level, vulnerability fosters reciprocity. When a man sees a woman brave enough to be vulnerable, he begins to feel safe enough to open up as well. It creates a cycle of intimacy where both reveal what lies beneath their surface. For him this is rare because he is often taught to hide his emotions, to never appear weak. Yet, when she models vulnerability, he realizes that love is not built on performance but on truth. He begins to share his fears, his scars, his unspoken desires, and this exchange becomes the heartbeat of a connection that is alive and enduring. What ultimately makes vulnerability so irresistible is that it transcends appearances. Beauty may attract him at first, but it is vulnerability that keeps him bound at the soul. It is the moment she shows him her unguarded heart that he feels an unshakable loyalty, a desire to stay, to protect, and to love without condition. This depth is not fragile as it may seem. It is the strongest foundation upon which lasting love is built, and once a man has experienced that level of intimacy, he cannot walk away unchanged. For it touches him in a place where words cannot reach and leaves an imprint that becomes a part of him forever. The power of emotional safety is one of the most essential foundations of love, and it explains why a man cannot stop loving a woman who offers it to him. In a world that constantly pressures men to perform, to be unshaken, to hide their weaknesses, emotional safety feels like a sanctuary. It is the rare place where he can set down the heavy armor he wears every day and simply exist without fear of judgment. When a woman provides this space, she gives him something priceless, something his soul longs for but seldom finds. Her presence becomes a refuge where he does not have to prove himself or pretend to be stronger than he feels. And this deep acceptance binds him to her in ways that physical attraction alone never could. Emotional safety is created through acceptance. The ability to embrace him as he is rather than demanding constant change. It does not mean she ignores his flaws, but that she does not make his flaws a weapon against him. When he senses that he can reveal his imperfections and still be loved, it touches him on a profound level. This security allows him to be more honest, to share thoughts and feelings that he hides from the rest of the world. He begins to trust her with the vulnerable parts of himself. Not because she forces him to, but because her presence invites truth. This level of trust grows slowly, yet once formed it becomes nearly unshakable. The strength of emotional safety also lies in consistency. A man may encounter passion, excitement, and even admiration from many, but he rarely finds someone whose emotional presence feels steady and grounding. When a woman listens without dismissing, when she stands by him in difficult moments instead of pulling away, when she responds with understanding rather than criticism, she shows him that her love is not conditional. This reliability gives him the confidence to open up further, and the cycle continues to deepen. The more he shares, the more she receives with grace, and the more he feels tied to her spirit. There is a healing quality in emotional safety. Many men carry hidden wounds, disappointments, failures, betrayals that they may never fully speak about. Yet when he feels truly safe with her, he may find himself revealing stories and emotions he never thought he would share. This release does not just strengthen their bond, it brings him peace. He begins to associate her presence with relief, with the quiet freedom of being unmasked. Over time, this connection becomes addictive. Not in a shallow way, but in the sense that his soul recognizes the rare gift she gives him, and he cannot imagine losing it. Emotional safety also allows space for growth. When a man does not feel judged or attacked, he is more willing to face his shortcomings and work toward becoming better. The difference is that he does so not out of fear of losing her, but out of inspiration to honor her trust. This creates a love that uplifts rather than diminishes. He feels encouraged, empowered and respected, which fuels his devotion. The woman who gives him this safety becomes not only a lover, but also a partner in his inner evolution, and this makes her unforgettable. What makes emotional safety so powerful is that it touches the deepest human need, the need to be fully known and still accepted. For a man, finding this in a woman means he has found more than companionship. He has found home. It is not dramatic gestures or grand declarations that hold him, but the quiet assurance that with her he can lay bare his soul without fear. This sense of safety is rare, sacred, and life-changing. Once he experiences it, he knows he cannot let it go because it awakens a love that is not only strong but enduring. And it leaves an imprint on his heart that time and distance cannot erase. The magnetic pull of authenticity is what makes love endure beyond the initial spark of attraction. And it explains why a man cannot stop loving a woman who embodies it. Authenticity is the refusal to hide behind masks or play roles to impress. It is the courage to stand as one truly is. In a world filled with pretense and constant performance, authenticity feels rare, and when a man encounters it, it immediately distinguishes her from the rest. He may be drawn to beauty, captivated by charm, or intrigued by intelligence. But what holds him at the deepest level is the unpolished truth of her being. Her laughter when it is real. Her silence when she does not feel the need to fill the air. Her emotions when she allows them to be seen without shame. All of these are the qualities that awaken his soul because they reflect life in its rawest and most beautiful form. Authenticity creates a kind of trust that cannot be manufactured. When she is authentic, he knows that what he sees is what she truly is. This eliminates the fear of deception because there are no layers of disguise or games being played. He feels secure knowing that her words align with act, and that her emotions are not hidden behind a polished mask. This makes him relax in her presence because he does not have to constantly question or doubt her intentions. Her transparency becomes a safe ground on which love can grow. And that safety transforms into devotion, because he knows how rare it is to find someone who lives truthfully. Another reason authenticity is so magnetic is that it gives permission to be authentic as well. Men often live in environments where they must compete, achieve, and maintain appearances. But when he is with a woman who embraces her true self, he feels an invitation to shed his own armor. Her honesty encourages his honesty, and this mutual openness creates a depth of intimacy that cannot be replaced by superficial attraction. In her presence, he feels no pressure to be perfect, only to be real, and that freedom becomes one of the strongest bonds he will ever experience. Authenticity also enhances her uniqueness. Trends and appearances may change, but the essence of a person remains. A woman who lives authentically to try to fit into a mold. And this individuality makes her unforgettable. She does not hide her quirks, her unique perspectives or her unrefined moments. And these very qualities become what he cherishes most. Rather than competing with others, she simply exists in her natural state. And that naturalness becomes magnetic. He loves her not for what she pretends to be, but for what she truly is. And this love endures because it is rooted in something unshakable. There is also a spiritual depth in authenticity that resonates with him. When she lives in alignment with her true self, she unconsciously awakens the truth within him. He sees in her a reminder of what it means to live honestly, to embrace flaws, and to celebrate strengths without hiding either. This does not just inspire love, it inspires growth. He feels drawn to rise into his own authenticity because she embodies it so naturally. And in doing so she becomes both a partner and a guide for his inner life. The pull of authenticity is irresistible because it cannot be duplicated. Anyone can mimic beauty, rehearse charm, or display intelligence. But authenticity is something that shines from within and cannot be faked. It leaves a mark on his soul because it is so rare to encounter someone who is unapologetically herself. Once he experiences this kind of truth, every false connection feels hollow in comparison. This is why he cannot stop loving her, because what he loves is not an image or an illusion but the essence of her being. An essence cannot be forgotten. The awakening of his hidden self is one of the most transformative experiences a man can have in love. And it becomes a reason he cannot let go of the woman who stirs it within him. Every man carries within him parts of himself that remain unseen, unexpressed or buried under the weight of expectations. These hidden aspects are not weaknesses, but rather potentials waiting for the right presence to draw them out. When he meets a woman who inspires him to reach for these deeper parts of himself without demanding or controlling, something profound takes place. She does not force him to change. Yet her essence or presence awaken the dormant qualities within him. The tenderness, the ambition, the courage, and even the spiritual depth that he may not have fully embraced before. This quiet awakening feels like recognition of who he was always meant to be, And because she is the catalyst, he cannot separate that transformation from his love for her. This awakening often begins subtly. It might be the way she listens to him without judgment, allowing him to share his dreams and fears more openly than he has with anyone else. It might be the way she believes in him even when he doubts himself, or the way she challenges him to rise, not through criticism but through inspiration. She becomes a mirror that reflects not only who he is but also who he has the potential to become. Her presence draws him into a deeper relationship with himself, and that experience is unforgettable. Once a man sees a better version of himself through the eyes of a woman who loves him, he cannot return to the smaller version he once lived. The hidden self also includes the softer emotions he may have been taught to suppress. Men are often conditioned to bury vulnerability, tenderness, and the need for intimacy. But when she creates a space where he feels safe, those parts begin to emerge. He might find himself speaking words of affection he never imagined saying, or showing patience and empathy he did not know he had. These qualities are not new. They were always there. But it is her presence that unlocks them. This unlocking makes her unforgettable, because she becomes the one who allowed him to meet the fullness of his own soul. There is a sense of destiny in this awakening, because it feels purposeful rather than accidental. He may not fully understand why her presence affects him this way, but he knows he is becoming more of who he truly is because of her. She awakens his ambitions and drives him to pursue goals with new determination. She awakens his compassion, making him more aware of others and more willing to care deeply. She awakens his spiritual longings, making him reflect on meaning and truth in ways he may have avoided before. Each of these awakenings makes him feel more alive, and because it is tied to her, she becomes intertwined with his journey of self-discovery. This process also builds an enduring bond. A man may admire many women, but the one who awakens his hidden self becomes unforgettable because she connects to something deeper than attraction. She connects to his essence, and in doing so, she becomes part of his evolution. He may try to walk away, but the memory of who he was when he was with her and who he began to become because of her will always linger. That memory will call him back because it reminds him of the version of himself he longs to keep alive. What makes this awakening so powerful is that it transcends the ordinary dynamics of love. It is not about external circumstances but about the internal transformation she sparks. She becomes the woman who not only loves him but also awakens him. That role imprints itself on his soul. He may not always have the words to explain it, but deep down he knows that her presence brought forth a part of him he might never have discovered on his own. That gift is too precious to forget, and it is why he cannot stop loving her, for she is not only a partner, but also the doorway through which he found his true self. The eternal imprint is what makes certain loves impossible to forget, and explains why a man cannot stop loving the woman who leaves such a mark on his soul. Not every connection has the power to leave this kind of imprint, because most relationships touch only the surface of a man's life. But when he encounters a woman who moves beyond appearances and into the essence of who he is, her presence does not fade with time. Instead, she becomes a part of his inner landscape, woven into his memories, his feelings, and his growth. This imprint is not about possession or control. It is about resonance. The way her being aligns so deeply with his that she becomes unforgettable. The eternal quality of this bond comes from the fact that it is not limited to the moment. It continues to echo in his heart long after the initial experiences have passed. Such an imprint often begins with small moments that seem ordinary on the surface but extraordinary in how they linger. The way she looked at him with complete acceptance. The way her laughter lit up something inside him. The way she comforted him when words were not enough. These moments carve themselves into his memory because they carry the weight of authenticity and connection. They do not pass like fleeting pleasures. They sink into him, shaping how he perceives love and intimacy. He may try to explain it, but there is no logic scribe enough to describe why certain memories remain so vivid. The truth is that they remain because they touch something timeless within him. And that timelessness becomes the essence of the eternal imprint. The eternal imprint is powerful because it is tied not only to what she gave him, but also to who he became in her presence. A man remembers the woman who awakened his laughter, but he also remembers the version of himself that came alive around her. He recalls how he felt more courageous, more open, more willing to risk vulnerability. That experience cannot be undone because it reshaped his identity. She becomes forever linked with his transformation. And no matter how much time passes, the memory of that growth binds him to her. In this way, she is not only remembered as a person, but as an experience, an awakening that defined a chapter of his soul. Even distance or endings do not erase such an imprint. Life may carry him into new relationships or different paths, but the imprint remains. He might hear a song, see a familiar place, or feel a certain emotion, and suddenly the memory of her presence floods back. It is not always painful. Sometimes it is bittersweet, sometimes it is comforting. But always it is undeniable. This is because her essence has become a part of his emotional memory. And emotional memory does not fade like facts or details. It endures because it is tied to feeling, and feelings leave lasting marks. The eternal imprint also carries a sense of mystery. He may not fully understand why her presence lingers more than others, but he knows that it does. It feels as though some bonds are written into the soul itself. And once they are written, they cannot be erased. This is why he cannot stop loving her. Because even if circumstances change, the imprint she left remains alive within him. It becomes part of his inner story, something that shapes how he sees love, how he understands connection, and how he defines intimacy. She becomes a reference point. A reminder of what love feels like when it reaches beyond the surface and into the eternal. What makes this imprint eternal is not grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but the quiet, consistent way she touched him at his core. Her authenticity, her vulnerability, her emotional safety, and the awakening she inspired all converge into mark that time cannot erase. She lives in his heart not as a fleeting image, but as a permanent presence, and that presence becomes part of who he is. This is why he cannot stop loving her, because to forget her would be to forget a part of himself, and the soul does not release what has become one with it. In the end, what holds a man's love is not simply beauty, charm, or fleeting passion, but the way a woman touches his soul in places even he cannot fully name. It is the recognition that feels like destiny, the vulnerability that builds intimacy, the safety that frees him, the authenticity that draws him closer, the awakening that transforms him, and the eternal imprint that ensures she can never be forgotten. These are not surface moments. They are soul encounters. And once they are experienced, they cannot be undone. This is why he cannot stop loving her, because she does not just live in his heart. She becomes part of his very being, a truth that endures beyond time, beyond circumstance, and beyond reason.